Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Raheem Rivers, aka Raheem the Revolutionary. Uh, right now, we're about to do a little Moorish American study, right? In terms of knowing who you are, right? Like knowledge itself, your history, especially the pre-colonial history, in regards to your ancestors, is very important. At least it is to me. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit here, right? In the Americas, right? Because when people say America, a lot of people just think United States, right? But there's like two continents that are actually America. There's North and South America. Those are the Americas, right? So when you're talking about like the Americans, the original Americans, that's what you're talking about. Is both continents too. But the first civilization in the Americas is the Olmecs. And the Olmecs, they built like basically Olmec meant rubber people. There were like a lot of rubber trees or whatever in Central America where they were at, where they were building. Oh yeah, we outside again. It's another Wind Talker series. Trying to just get all this stuff recorded, you know what I mean? And then like in the future we're gonna polish it up and all of that and turn it into actual like teaching materials and so forth. But anyway, the Olmecs are the first civilization in the Western Hemisphere in the Americas, and they're about 2500 BC. So you have them. The Olmec meant rubber people due to the trees and stuff and the way they used it in their culture. They kind of had like a primitive form of soccer that they played. The Aztecs and the Mayans kind of had different versions as well. It's important to understand that all of these people were kind of interconnected. They ended up building kind of trade capital. And then there's the Taino. The Taino are like what would be considered the ancient islanders over here. So say like where Hispaniola is, or what they now call Haiti, the Dominican Republic, all of the Florida Keys. The people who typically traveled through there, because there were trade routes between that capital city I was just talking about, through the Florida Keys up into Florida, with the what they call the Black Seminoles. That's something good to look up too, is the Black Seminoles, because they act like we came from Africa and all of this on slave ships, but most of us was already here. And the Seminoles is a great testament to that, because not only are they a native tribe, but runaway slaves, quote unquote, could hide amongst the Seminole tribes, and the slavers, the Europeans, the colonialists couldn't tell the difference. You see what I'm saying? Because we was the same people. But anyway, the Taínos also considered land and water the same. So if you study their maps, because they use canoes, you study their maps, they would just travel through the Florida Keys, like up into Florida and then back down into Mexico. Like that was their whole little territory right there. But going on, the first royal landmark in the Americas is called the Red Palace. That's the Olmecs as well. They have Olmec heads. You could Google. You could pretty much tell from their nose and their lips that they're African. And like a lot of, like if you pay attention, you could look at Brazil today and still see like they got people in Brazil that's darker than people in Africa, like certain people in Africa, I'm saying, you know what I mean? But in terms of understanding like the original definition of an American was a copper-skinned person that was in the Americas before the colonialists showed up. Right, so they flipped the American name, is like they stole it from us, from the people who was here already, and like they call us, like you got Native American, you got Indian, you got Negro, black, colored, you got all these other definitions and so forth. But in regards to the American that's from Europe, they just call them Americans. Even though originally when they were colonialists, the colonies, which they still are, the colonies used to call themselves by what colony they were from. So like if you were from Virginia, you would be a Virginian. They didn't call themselves Americans. They didn't start doing that until the Revolutionary War, when they were trying to unite all of the colonies against Britain. And so they used the name American to do that, to try and get all of them on the same side, and in doing that, steal our identity as well, and try and like replace us as the Americans. Right, so that's kind of like the beginning of where are we going. From there, you got like colonialism, so forth. Before that, though, before the Constitution of America is written, there's what they call the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, which is with the people who founded America and King Muhammad III, who was the Moorish king. He was the king of the Moorish Empire at the time, which is our ancestor, if you understand what I'm talking about. And you could look that treaty up. That's like documented. And then something else you got to look at is what's called the Doctrine of Discovery. This is written by, I want to say it's Pope Innocent III, and it's basically like a master plan for how the Catholics are going to colonize the land, and it's like part and parcel to how they got the Christians who were with us originally to betray us. If you read the Doctrine of Discovery, what you'll see is that basically the Pope says that they're to take all the land and everything of anybody who isn't a Christian. So if you're not a Christian or a Catholic, they basically was like wipe them out. And if you pay attention, like if you look at history, that's like actually what did happen in the Americas. The raping and the pillaging and the smallpox and the slavery, like all of that, the massacres and so forth. Like the Doctrine of Discovery is like where they get that Christopher Columbus, quote unquote, discovered America. It was by the Pope's authority. All right, so that's like kind of the holy war in the Americas, if you will, right? And that's what like went after all the tribes. It went after all the people who weren't European, basically, or Christian, because there were people who sold out. You know what I mean? Like for Moors, the Moors who bent their knee to the Pope and were part of who sold us out were called Moristos, which were basically like people who had Moorish blood but had converted to Catholicism or Christianity in order to serve our enemies. Basically, they like the COINTELPRO before there was a COINTELPRO. It was them niggas. And so from there, right, you got the Underground Railroads and stuff. You got our people fighting for freedom. You also have what a lot of people don't know is what they call the Underground Railroad to the South, which is like the fact that Mexico actually banned slavery before America did. And they had what was called the Freedom Principle in Mexico, which meant no matter where you were from or who, quote unquote, claimed to own you, once you were in Mexican territory, you were free. And that's something that I love about our history and its connection to them. But the Underground Railroad to the South actually does have many who they call them Black Seminoles. Like there's a separation between like what's called the Negro and who we really are. And like the Seminole connection is one of those. The Moorish connection is one of those. Like if you go into Mexico, you go, they call us Morenos. You know what I mean? But they know who we are. But if you say like black or some shit, like, yeah, that's fake. They know that. We know that. You know what I mean? It's just a bunch of people keep playing with the bullshit. But if you want to know the truth, you know what I mean? If you look at it as true or false, you know what I mean? Then stand on the truth is what I would recommend, right? But yeah, aside from all that, the only other thing I wanted to touch on in this is the importance of Islam's presence in America before colonialism. And after colonialism, because it's still here, you know what I mean? And Islam is a very important inheritance for our people, you know what I mean? Because if you look at Christianity and you look at how it's led our people since slavery, because nobody, like, we wasn't really Christians unless you was talking about like Ethiopians, and they branch of Christianity is totally different than the shit that came out of Rome. But yeah, our people, we're Islamic. You know what I mean? We're the Muslims and shit. You look at the Holy War and they talk about all the African kings and shit. That's Islam, baby. That's us. And it's important for us to understand that. So when we're looking at our own history, our own culture, it's not something foreign to us, or we're not looking at it through the eyes of the foreigners who colonialized our people. You understand? Like you gotta be able to look at the statues and so forth in places like ancient Kemet, and look at the history of Islam itself throughout North and West Africa, like throughout the Americas, like all of its history, bro, because it's all connected to us, our ancestors, and what our purpose is on this earth. You know what I mean? So yeah, this Raheem Rivers, and y'all have a blessed night. I'm out.